Hey, hockey fans, welcome to the Across the Pond Hockey Podcast YouTube channel. If it's your first time here and you'd like to support us, please hit that subscribe button and that like button. It goes a long way in helping us develop the program. Before we get to tonight's episode, I have to take a minute to thank our wonderful sponsors, starting with the China Hockey Group. The China Hockey Group is a family-oriented group of ice hockey leagues, training programs, and community initiatives geared towards developing hockey in Southeast Asia. From their incredible Junior Tigers program all the way up to the CIHL, which is Hong Kong's elite full-contact ice hockey league, they have a program suitable for players of all ages and abilities. You can also stop by the Warrior Bauer Hockey Shop in Central for all your equipment needs and skate sharpening. Check out their website for more information at ChinaHockeyGroup.com. That's ChinaHockeyGroup.com. Next, we have our friends at Accessory House Global. If you're like me and your headphones look like this, it's time to head to accessoryhouseglobal.com for any accessories you need for your headphones. From cables to carrying cases to new ear pads, they carry products for all the biggest brands. Head to their website at accessoryhouseglobal.com. Use the promo code ATP20 for 20% off your purchase. That's accessoryhouseglobal.com. Next, we have our pals over at Wheel Hub Asia. These guys are committed to building community and bringing accessibility to inline hockey players across Southeast Asia. They're heading into the year 2 of Hong Kong's newest inline league, 3 Inline. You can head to their website for all of your inline hockey needs at wheelhubasia.com. Enter discount code ATP10 for 10% off your purchase. That's wheelhubasia.com. Next, we have our friends at Yardley Brothers Craft Brewery. Folks, if you're a craft brew fan and you're in Hong Kong, then you absolutely have to check out Yardley Brothers' incredible selection of award-winning brews. You can head to the Beer Shack on Llama Island or the Yardley Brothers Cafe and Bistro at 62 Peel Street in Central. If you can't get out of the house, no problem. Just head to their website, yardleybrothers.hk, and you can get their delicious products delivered right to your door. That's yardleybrothers.hk. Last but not least, a huge thank you to Mr. Paul McLean at Sunset Studio in Kennedy Town for always making the podcast sound great. If you're looking for a place to jam with your band or record a new song, check them out on Instagram at sunset_studio_HK. That's sunset_studio_HK. Folks, the websites and description will be in the description. All the discount codes will be there for you. Please check them out and support our wonderful sponsors. Hey, hockey fans, welcome to Across the Pond, Hong Kong's first and only hockey podcast. My very special guest today grew up in Spruce Grove, Alberta, and happens to be the first goalie I've had on the show. He's played 144 games in the NHL with the Leafs, Kings, Oilers, and Habs. He's a Cornell graduate, Hobey Baker finalist, and represented Canada at the World Cup and Olympic Games. He's now retired as a player, but continues to contribute to the game he loves by working with the Alumni Association of the NHL and doing some coaching in Edmonton. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Ben Scrivens. Ben, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing well. I thought there was going to be like a laugh track, a generated applause or something like that.
Well, now that you said that, my editor's going to put it in. Thanks,
no,
Paul.
No, don't do that. I don't need that. No, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is fun. I'm really looking forward to this. As I said, my first morning podcast and first goalie. So this is exciting. So let's get right into it. We all know that everyone has a different path getting to the NHL, and I'd love to hear how yours started. So tell me a little bit about when you began playing hockey and your hometown.
Yeah, so I was born in Calgary, but moved up to Spruce Grove when I was, 4 or 5. And started playing in, the minor hockey system there. Didn't score any goals in Tom Thumb, so naturally gravitated towards playing. If I couldn't score, I made it my mission to stop people, whether it was playing defense or being in net. I got some enjoyment out of making people be upset about not scoring in the same way that I was.
Yeah.
And then, it just kind of took on a life of its own. I was fortunate to have some coaches along the way who spent their time, their energy, their gas money, driving to all of the rinks in the middle of nowhere, and spending their time to help me get a foundation in the game. And truthfully, I was a late bloomer, so I was just minor hockey pretty much until I was 16 or 17. I played triple or double A hockey all the way up. My last year of midget was the first time that I played triple A hockey. And then from there, played junior A the next 2 years, and then college after that, and then signed my pro contract. So definitely a late bloomer. And yeah, it was nice to be able to stay at home. I played with enough guys who moved away at 14, 15, 16 to play, whether it's Notre Dame or playing major junior or doing all of the stuff that some guys need to do or want to do to get seen and to further their careers. But I was really fortunate to be able to spend time at home. And got a really good group of high school friends that really helped keep me grounded when I was playing.
That's cool. And then that, it takes a whole community to get you there. And were you at the time when you obviously you didn't get drafted into the CHL, and that didn't slow you down, but what was there an aspect of like, I got to get over this hump and find another way?
Not really. I'm sure you've had other guys on and you've heard other guys talk about like, yeah, I always dreamed of playing in the NHL. Like I was always a hockey fan, and like I had all the Rock'em Sock'em hockey movies and I enjoyed playing hockey, would go to the Oilers games whenever I could. But I truly didn't have like a dream of playing in the NHL. It was always like playing the next year. And I don't know where that came from. Like it certainly didn't start out as like a purposeful approach to development. In hindsight, it definitely served me well to not get like frustrated with the lack of, you get cut from this team, you get cut from that team, and then get frustrated. And it takes you, a month or two to find your bearings again. Playing on whatever team you landed up on. So, which isn't to say it was easy to be cut and I didn't care. It was, it just like, again, it was kind of like year by year. I don't think I knew about the Bantam draft when I was at that age. Like I was playing double A hockey in the rural leagues in Alberta. It was, nothing that was like even on my radar, truthfully. And, the same thing with the NHL draft. Like I remember a scout from Phoenix came and watched me after I committed to Cornell, like the next game. And he, I don't know why he did. I can't remember who the scout was, but he came and introduced himself before the game. And like, hey, like I'm from Phoenix, I'm gonna be watching the game today. And like I gave up 5. I was like, why would you ever do that to a kid?
Surprise.
No pressure. Yeah, no pressure. I'm here to watch. And you're like, so, but like, that's obviously putting it on him. It was on me to perform, and ended up working out in the way that it did. So it was, even the NHL draft, I was playing junior A. I was a backup the year before, had just committed to Cornell. So I remember committing and being like, oh, maybe I'll play like a dozen games. For some reason I had 12 in my head. Maybe I'll play a dozen games, be able to tell my kids I was a Division I athlete and go from there. So like the Bantam draft, all those drafts, I feel bad for the kids now. Like I do some work at a junior high school here in Edmonton, and like you see like the Bantam draft happens, and like you see some kids that just like take it really hard where they went, if they even went. And I don't know that it does everybody a service, right? And like you can go through the Bantam, like all of the Bantam like draft picks for the last 20 years or something, however long they've had it, like the WHL anyway. And like in the first round, there's some years there's like 3 guys that play in the NHL. And some of those guys are 12 games. Other years it's a little heftier, but still there's like a spattering that kind of have that cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard to teach kids that it doesn't matter that much in the moment.
Yeah.
Um, because it feels like it matters that much, but it's partly like the emphasis that we as adults and overseers of the game, place importance on, and the
Yeah.
kids feed off of that. So, whether it's the draft, whether it's World Juniors, whether there's a lot of things that we as adults do to put extra pressures on kids, and I don't think it serves them all that well. But
No, well, it
what
sounds
are you
like
going to do, right?
you were pretty level-headed about your expectations as a kid, but today parents and coaches put so much pressure on kids at such a young age, and it doesn't get any easier for them. And they think they're going to be in the NHL when they're 12 years old, and it just doesn't usually work that way.
Yeah, and like this isn't meant to like rip on like every parent wants the best for their kids, so
Of
it's not even
course.
done
Yeah.
maliciously.
No, not at all.
And when I say like it comes from a place of ignorance,
Yeah.
ignorance it has such a negative connotation, right? Where
Hmm.
it's like, oh, you're purposefully doing it, but
Yeah,
ignorance just means like a lack of knowledge, right?
exactly.
And
Yep.
it's hard to know what you don't know. Like I'm
Yeah.
fortunate to have gone through a lot of the different ranks and played at a bunch of different levels, and so I have, you know, uh, learned experience of what's important and what's not, and so I have maybe a more balanced approach to it.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about golf, or we're talking about being a lawyer, that's out of my depth of knowledge, so I'm
Right.
ignorant in what it takes to be successful in those
Right.
things. And it doesn't mean it's not a detractor from me as a person. It just
Yeah.
means that I just don't have that knowledge base. But when it comes to how we're like shepherding our kids, again, every parent just wants the best for their kids.
Hmm.
It's just hard. It's hard for the parents to also understand that like the draft doesn't mean that much.
Right.
You know, I tend to use the analogy of like you're a musician. You don't put your kid in guitar lessons or piano lessons so that they'll be the next, Elton John or Adele
Yeah.
or Jimmy Page. You put
Yeah.
them in it so that they can learn a skill, learn
Yeah.
about stick to itiveness,
Yeah.
and start a band with their friends, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
it's a social experience, right?
100%.
And teaches them skill sets for life. That
Yeah.
to me is my approach for hockey and sports in general. Is like, let's teach you how to work in a group. Let's teach you how to
Yeah.
sacrifice. Work harder, have fun while you're working hard, because those things
Hmm.
go really well hand in hand. And and then you just keep trying and keep going. If it works, it works, and if not, as long as you're not tying your identity to that success or failure, you're going to be a more well-rounded person on the outside or on the back end of it. So
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And, those were the things that my dad taught me growing up, my mom and dad. Yeah. So I couldn't agree more with that. To go back to what you said about that scout from Phoenix, it sounds like he might have heard wind that you were going to Cornell, and somebody didn't want to miss out on an opportunity to get a look at you. So, when you went to Cornell, did you have other schools in mind, or was it always just wherever the best opportunity came from?
I mean, that was it. It was my first year starting in junior A, and I had a couple schools come out and talk to me, kind of let me know that I was on their radar.
Yeah.
But Cornell was the first school to offer me a spot,
Hmm.
and I mean, I didn't hesitate and wait around and like, oh, let's see what all we can get.
Yeah.
Great school. Obviously a pedigree of goalies that came out
Yeah.
of there. They were always competitive nationally. So it married so many of the important things for me as far as an option for school. And again, like I went there for the education. I didn't think
Yeah.
I didn't have expectations or playing. I didn't have that dream of like, oh, I'm gonna, compete for the best player in the country, be an
Hmm.
All-American. I was like, yeah, maybe I'll
Hmm.
be able to tell my kids I achieved this modicum of success. And
Yeah.
I was really fortunate with how things played out. And um, especially as I look back in hindsight, I have a lot of gratitude for how things played out for me, and it gives me good perspective when things both go right for me in the future, and also when things don't end up how I hope they would.
Yeah.
A lot of great teammates and how they handled themselves in adversity, are good, have become good role models for me. especially at such a young age, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, really fortunate.
That is really cool because when you look at your college career, you did really well right away. And like the proof's in the pudding. Like if you look at '09, you won like 6 or 7 awards, first team All-Star, best goals against, best save percentage, Hobey Baker finalist, tournament MVP. Like, how did that happen for you? Like, who are the guys in your life? Who was their goalie coach or your mentors that helped you balance between, getting an Ivy League education and still being able to contribute at such a high level on the ice?
Oh, that's a good question. I think like I was working as far as goalie coach I was working with Dustin Schwartz. He was up and coming in Edmonton at that time. Him and Lyle Mast were kind of, as far as I'm concerned, kind of leading the charge and kind of come up with the science and the methodology behind head trajectory. And so I was really fortunate that like it just happened to be in my backyard. And was able to work with Schwartzy and Lyle and really incorporate that into my game. So just in like a technical aspect, a lot of credit goes to those two guys as far as helping me to hone my craft. And I think, credit to like Coach Schaefer, Brent Brecky was a coach for half my time there, Casey Jones afterwards. Scott Garrow recruited me. Like I owe a ton to Scott Garrow, who was the assistant coach there. He and I had a great rapport there. He was kind of the guy that I felt comfortable going to, good, bad, he was quick with a joke, just like the epitome of what that assistant coach role is.
Right.
So he was really helpful in like stabilizing, I think, for me. But collectively, the coaching staff created an environment, and that's kind of what the program does, right? And whether it's Cornell or any of the other successful programs in college hockey, is you have a group of seniors that lead the way for, the juniors, sophomores, freshmen. And then when those freshmen become seniors, right, over time, they have learned to embody what it means to work hard, stay on top of your school. You're not taking shortcuts. You're self-sacrificing off the ice for, the success of the team as a whole. So the teammates, I think the guys in my class, we're taking classes together, helping each other with homework, going to the rink, traveling together, living together, cleaning houses together. You're like your roommates, your teammates, your classmates, you're all those things together. And so having a really fortunate, the 5 guys that I was with for the majority of my time there, like we really bonded well, still good friends today. And yeah, like we looked out for each other, but also like held each other accountable, I think. And that goes a long way when, you take it out of the coaching staff's hands or the captain's hands, and you're working for that guy, and that if you let him down, it's gonna sit with you more than anything else, right? And vice versa, right? Like if he does something dumb, you got to have that strong relationship where you can be like, hey man, like what are you doing? And know that he's going to be able to do that to you, and you're not like taking it personally or getting too defensive in the long term. It's all because we cared about each other.
So you've been known throughout your career as someone who really studies the position. Like you're like an astute student of the technical parts of being a goalie. And I have a couple of goalie friends here in Hong Kong who were really nice and sent me out some questions that they wanted to ask you. Antoine and Craig, thanks for doing that. A lot of their question was based on the mental part of being a goalie, mental preparation, visual focus, and concentration. Were there things that the position has evolved so much over the years? Were there things that you were doing in college that you continued to do to prepare for a game, to stay focused during a game? Any tricks or rituals or things that you did to stay on top of that?
Oh, this one might be a long answer.
I love it because take your time.
as evidenced by my past easy softballs. This one might get lengthy, but
Yeah.
I think that there's a couple parts. Your question was, did I start with some things in college and continue that on? I definitely did. It, like almost anything else, it was things that I built up over the course of my career, and a lot of it is trial and error, right? I heard about this thing, I tried to do it, it didn't work, but this aspect of it did, so I'm gonna keep that and excise the rest. But as I look back now, I understand more about why the things I was doing were helpful, even though I didn't understand why they were helpful. I just knew they were helpful when I was doing them. Like our capacity to make decisions and to hold a whole bunch of information in our head at one time is limited. So like simplicity is really helpful. I kept my mental cues to like 3. So I would go into a game with like 3 cues, and the cues were simple. They were like in the golf. There's so many parallels between golf psychology and goaltending in particular. Like one shot at a time. Like their parallels are innumerable. But like keeping things simple and positive, right? Like if you're standing over your ball on a tee box and there's water on the left, if you're saying don't hit it left, your brain is just going to hear your left, right? So right is safe, right? That's the positive way to go, and that's kind of the state that you put your mind into. So similar things like that, like top of my crease, on my toes, puck on the stick. So it was like all of the stuff that would get me in position to let my body take over once a shot, because you're not thinking when a shot comes, you're just reacting. So my cues were I kept it to 3. They were really simple and focused on like the things that I could control. And like again, as I played longer and read more and like understood it more, it made sense why those things were really helpful, so I continued those things on. As I got older, I realized more and more about efficiency in the position. And that being said, like I wasn't the most efficient. Like Carey Price probably was the model for like efficiency. A lot of guys are like Patrick Waugh, J.S. Giguère, model of efficiency. Those types of guys I have a lot of respect for, because I'm a huge proponent of work smart, not hard. Working hard for the sake of working hard is like makes you feel like you're doing a lot, but it may not. At best, it helps you, right? You're working hard and you're getting better, right? Most of the time, if you're not being purposeful about what you're doing, you're probably just being neutral or being like some gains, but it might not even be the gains that you're trying to get. And at worst, you're like working hard, but reinforcing bad habits. So like just to work hard is not the be all and end all. Like purposeful practice. And I think the game has come a long way in that regard. You're not just like bagging yourself to bag yourself. It's like, rest is a weapon, use it to your advantage. Trying to have a plan going into a drill so that that you're focusing on the right part. And then again, later in my career, to look back, and I think it ties into my upbringing and what we had already talked about in my like early years of like not looking too far ahead. I got much better, and I think I had like an innate knack for like goal. Like I knew goals were going to go in. I didn't think I was superhuman. I was just trying to like play the best that I could, and so like I knew goals were going to go in. So I didn't get like overly rattled when I would get scored on, like certain times or certain arenas or whatever, where you just have like anxiety or whatever sort of like emotions are coming up. But by and large, that detachment from results was super helpful for me.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
To have a mindset around process instead of results. Like I preach that all day and all night to any kids that I work with. Right. Like go up to him day one. Do I care if you get scored on? No, I don't care that you get scored on. Like if we're working, eventually good things are going to happen for you.
Yeah.
But if we're just like so adamant, and like that's why it pains me to especially young kids, where they get a goal scored on, slam their sticks and it's like, I get the drive and I'm competitive. I hate losing. But it's not helpful to like be that fixated on results. So yeah, I would say those, some of them were purposeful in the moment. Some of them I recognize after why they were so helpful, but like simplicity. The other piece about like the three whatever cues that I had, they were like changing all the time. So like if I started to slip in practice, it was like I would try to reanalyze my game to figure out where my where the like breakdown was happening. And so if I'm on my toes, like, and I'm feeling confident, but I'm still getting, I'm behind on plays or whatever, then there's just something else to like redirect my attention on. And so like I'll cut the part that I'm feeling confident in.
I gotcha.
Address something else. Yeah. And like, so it's kind of this like continual shifting of like where my attention is. But by doing that, I was constantly evaluating my, like, again, my process. And I think it was really important to like not be superstitious of like, superstition is I try to talk every goalie I talk to out of it. Superstition is just doing something for the sake of doing it. And again, if you're a superstitious person, you complete all of your routine or all of your like things. The best case scenario is you're neutral. Right. Because a superstition is doing everything to prevent you from like dipping, right? Like, oh, it's going to be bad luck if I don't do that. So if I don't do it, I'm going to be bad. But if I do it, I'm not good. I'm just normal. And so you create a whole bunch of, and again, it gets back to that, like, how much mental capacity do we have? And is it better spent on superstitions, or is it better spent on like, what is it that I actually have control over that is demonstrably going to help my game? So,
well, that was a fantastic answer.
I mean, a rambling response.
No, that was perfect. You hit everything there. There was one thing though, the pregame getting ready aspect. Was there a couple of drills or things you did? Because sometimes you'll see guys that like to go out and sit on the bench and look around the rink, and you'll see their eyes going, or some guys got the tennis balls going, or like, what was it you could do to get your visual tracking sharp before a game?
I'll preface this by saying, like, I think there are guys who do this better than I do. So like my approach probably could have been, helped in some capacity. Cause like, I'm not in the Hockey Hall of Fame. Like there are better goaltenders out there than I am. So there are parts of my game that like we're deficient in some capacity. What I tried to get to as far as like the point in my career and the point in my game was I didn't need the warm up. If I could go into any situation and be there and just play, then I no longer have the excuses of, oh, the bus showed up late, or guys are shooting high in warm up and I'm not getting any shots, or I'm just not feeling it off the wall, right? As far as like juggling or whatever the thing is, I think there's like routines that we can do to get our body go, like, and again, like anybody who's done any sort of like kinesiology can like tell us how to like warm our bodies up, like prime our nervous system to like respond appropriately. That is not, I think, what we're talking about. I think, or what I heard in your question was, how can I train my eyes so that I feel ready, so that I'm like tracking well once I get in the game? And my approach was like, it shouldn't have to do that.
Okay.
Like, if you are it, like 90% of goaltending is pre-shot work. So like, are you in position? Are you set? Are you set early on shots? Have you got your weak side look? Right. And then from there, it's like, as far as head trajectory goes, like, are my eyes in the center of my head looking out? If I'm back and looking down my eyes or down my nose at a puck, I don't have very good visual acuity.
Right.
If I'm like, if my head going up and down as I move across the ice, it's just, it creates more information for my brain to process, which takes away its ability to do what it's supposed to be doing, which is making a save. Right. Yeah. So like, I think whatever you do, it doesn't matter to a degree, because once a game starts, like, good warm up, bad warm up, like, you still have to play. And so if I, as a goalie, starts giving myself excuses for not playing well because X didn't go well, I'm not tracking well. Okay, well, so don't track well, but still, like, figure out how you're going to make some saves, because like, that is the biggest thing in the pro game, is like, you get a guy like, what did Kiprasov play that year? 72 or something, 72 or 73 games. Calgary. There's no chance he felt good every game, right? No. Guys are playing 60 games a night against, I mean, the skill in the NHL is absurd. This, like, at this point in where the game's at, like, guys just, you're not feeling good every game. If that's the case, I mean, you should never lose a game, right? Yeah. You're doing everything you can to feel good, but you know, at the end of the day, you got to be a realist about, you know, where we're at, and like, do what you can, trial and error. You know, if you want to just do like quick eye movement, if you want to do juggling, just don't get married to it as if, like, if I don't do this, I'm gonna not have my visual attachment ready. Right. So that when you can get to a place where you could almost, again, without being dangerous about your body and like risking injury, you can step on the ice and play. Yeah. That's kind of like my approach to it, which, again, prefaced by, there's guys out there that have like better goaltending skills. So maybe there's an answer that I'm ignorant to, but like, as far as just practicality, like, you got to be able to just play at some point too.
That's interesting, because I think the whole head level and eye level thing, it crosses over into a lot of different sports. Like, a football receiver doesn't run with his hands up in the air waiting to catch the ball. He's got to do that at the last second. An outfielder in baseball is not running with his arms, because it changes your whole, like, your whole peripheral vision, and your eyes are bouncing. So yeah, that's really interesting about the eye level thing. And throughout your career, you've been known as like a meticulous tweaker of your gear, like a Belfour or a Timmy T. This is a question from Craig. So he wants to know how the Professor strap developed.
Professor strap developed.
And explain what it is, if you don't mind, for the listener.
Yeah, no problem. It's I didn't come up with the name. It was attributed to me through like the requests that I made through Vaughn, and the guys at Vaughn have always been great about like hearing what I'm going for, and like not being like, no, you're getting the stock pad. Like, yeah, we're always great in working with me and trying to get me the gear that I thought was going to be most helpful. So it started in college. Like college hockey, you order your gear, you could like change the sizes, but like, you know, at that point, again, I was the second or third goalie on the team, so I wasn't getting like, you know, the star treatment or whatever. So right. I would get gear, and then I would like cut things out, and I would work with. I had a great relationship with our equipment guy there, Pedro. And he and I just like, you know, he gave me free reign. Like, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I ended up hollowing out a lot of the leg channel of the pad. And like, felt as I would do that, and each subsequent year added a little bit. changing how I wanted, like where I wanted the weight of the pad to sit, like which straps were tight, which weren't. So by the time like making my own knee straps, knee pads and knee guards, so that I could wear them in a way that that meshed with my pads, and when I could do that, then I could have my pads a lot straighter because I wasn't using the overlap of the pads to protect my knees. I could, have my knee blocks, corral more rebounds. Like there was like a bit of a method to it, but again, a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until probably I would want to say it was like my second year pro, that I started talking to them about like how I wanted the pad to sit. I had the calf strap, so the uppermost leather strap on the back of the calf was stitched into the outside of the leg channel.
Yeah.
So like call it like 11 inches apart, right?
Okay.
And so it's like sewn in there, and I had it strapped, and I like had it reefed pretty good because that's where I got the feeling that I wanted it to sit, was on my weight on my calf, not on my toes, not on my boots, but like basically right behind my knee. But when especially over time, as I was like tightening it, the pad was starting to like bow with it, and so it was like wrapping around, so making the pad a little bit smaller. So I asked if I could, hey, how can we bring this in? And so we did a couple iterations, and they ended up putting the strap through the like around on the face of the pad. Like if you look at the old like Vaughn pads from 1980, you know how the strap goes all the way through the pad around the front and then back through.
Yeah.
They basically did that, but they kept it under the face, under that leather face. And then we just like kind of adjusted the width, and it ended up getting to a place where it was like it was through the pad, it was through the front padding material. All of the weight was on my calf, and then I could like just hold the weight of the pad on that calf. And by the end of my career, I could have played with two straps on my pads. The rest were just like just in case, right? Type of idea. But I could have gone with my toe bridge, and I could have gone with a calf strap, and that was all I needed, quote unquote.
That's really interesting because you often see now like everything snaps and buckles now. Everything's a little bit different now, but some guys have them so loose, and you notice that they're not even really doing much. They're just there.
I mean, it is personal preference. I would not presume to tell anybody to wear it like I like it just because I like it. That being said, I could not imagine how awful it would feel to just have like loose equipment. For me, it's like a trust thing, right? Like how do I can't trust that my pads are going to fall the same way each time if they're just like floppy. But like a lot of really good goaltenders wear loose fitting gear, and it's like it works for them. So more power to you.
Well, thanks for sharing that, and thanks for the question, Craig. Appreciate it. So let's get back to your playing days a little bit. You after university, things seemed to happen really fast. A short stint in the coast, played an all-star game there. The next year, you're the top goalie in the AHL. How did that process happen so quickly?
I mean, the reality is it didn't feel quick. You get sent down to the coast, and you're down there for 3.5 or 2.5 months, a couple call-ups here and there for a weekend. It doesn't the length of days are the same, and so it doesn't feel, I mean, it's like anything. It's really tough to judge progress on like a day-by-day basis, and that's like the perception that we have. So in hindsight, definitely was like a J curve to a degree. But in the moment, it was like part of the grind. It was, Francois Lair was our goalie coach in Toronto, and when I first got, I had a great rookie camp. Like I thought I was told by players that like one of the best goalies in camp.
You're the guy.
Yeah, I mean, not really. Like I'm not naive, and I wasn't naive enough then to think that like, oh, I had like a good camp and they're gonna like wave JSUK or something
Yeah.
like that. But like basically like validated that like, hey, I can play here. I'm like good enough. My like skill level is there. So I was disappointed when I got sent to Reading instead of or feeling like I earned a spot in with the Marlies. But you know, there's a just the nature of how the politics of professional hockey. We had a Finnish guy who, you know, is massive individual, good guy, but he the Europeans oftentimes have a bit of a a trump card in that they can say, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go back to Finland then. I'll make 150 grand there, whatever they make.
Yeah.
They're going to be a local. They'll speak their own language.
Yeah.
If you try to send them to the coast, they'll just say, yeah, nah, it's not worth it. I didn't come to North America, and I get that. Like,
Yeah,
I wouldn't
100%.
want to travel to another continent to go play, you know, so, you know, at a level that is, you know, 2 steps away from the true goal, which is the NHL. So, but for me being a North American, I didn't have the luxury of that, and I was undrafted, and you know, it was the way it was. And so Frankie sat me down when he was in the meeting as part of it. We talked afterwards, and he was like, you got to bring your head with your body, right? Like, don't go to the coast. Don't be thinking like checking the scores of the AHL to see if somebody played well or played poorly, or who did somebody get hurt or whatever. Like, go down there and play. Like, bring your mind with you, bring your mind with your body. Some of the best advice I got. I didn't realize how prescient he was at the moment, but that's what a good coach does, right? So
yeah, 100%.
Was able to just go down there, enjoyed my time with the guys in Reading. Like a good group. It's a different style of hockey, so I got a lot of shots. I was able to, you know, play big minutes, and I was able to like get into games pretty easily and consistently, because you're not playing on a team that gives up 16 against that's, you know, you're kind of waiting 8 minutes before your first shot, right? So that certainly helped my save percentage, and then from there, you know, second half of the year, that was when Reimer went up with the Leafs, and so that created a vacuum for me to step up, and I got some chances in the AHL to play, and it performed well. And, you know, from there was just kind of continuing to battle for playing time and ice time. And again, some great coaching, whether it was with Frankie or Dallas Eakins was our coach for the Marlies that year. Fantastic guy, fantastic human being.
Right.
I was playing for him, and you know, was just able to, not dissimilar from my time at university. I was part of a good group of guys, and we were able to like hold each other accountable and work hard together, and we liked each other, and you know, came together. We made a run to the Calder Cup final, lost to a Norfolk team that had like a 34 game winning streak that year. So
oh wow,
it wasn't in the stars. That was John Cooper right before he went up and took over the helm in Tampa. Johnson was there, Palat was there, Gudis was there. I mean, just a really, really well coached team, a lot of really, you know, quality players. Was Killorn there? Killorn might have been on the team. Don't quote me.
Halifax boy, Nova Scotia.
Yeah. A Harvard guy. Ugh, no.
That's funny. So you finally get that call, Ben. You get to play your first NHL game for like one of the most storied franchises. I believe you won your first game, a 4-1 win, if I can remember correctly. Tell me about that whole experience for you.
Yeah, so it was my second call up. My first ever game I dressed was at the Bell Center. Wow. That was fantastic. And I think Jiggy was coming back from an injury, so he was like with the team but didn't dress. He was like, was this his groin maybe? I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got called up and got a chance to like dress, and I think I maybe backed up 2 or 3 games. One of them was in Atlanta too, so I
Oh, the
actually got,
Thrashers. Yeah.
yeah, that's how old I am.
Yeah.
I got the dress in the game against Atlanta.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think when I got my next call up, and I think Reimer was Reimer hurt? Yeah, it was Reimer went down. And this was the next year. So like my first
Yeah.
call up was my rookie year.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until next year. And it was Reimer and Gustafson were the two guys in Toronto, and Reimer got hurt. And so I came up, and I think Jonas he played like 4 or 5 in a row. Um, and it was like you're sitting there like I'm trying not to make waves, just trying to like work hard in practice, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, wondering if Rhymes is going to be okay, how long he's going to be out for. But you're not like, you don't want to be looking too eagerly at the coach, right? Like that's not
Yeah.
a good role for you as a teammate, and especially a young guy, a rookie. So yeah, I remember we went to Columbus. I think we played Ottawa the night before, or 2 nights before, and like hard fought, but I think we lost the game, and I think that kind of swayed Ron Wilson into leaning towards me for the next start. And again, Columbus, they weren't great at that time, and yeah, like ended up just pitching a bit of a gem. Guys played really hard in front of me. I think I made 39 saves, but like
Yeah.
I'm sure I punted some rebounds around and increased my shots against. But yeah, I remember making a save against Rick Nash, like a pass through the seam. He corralled it and like short side shelf, and I remember coming over and being big and like hitting it in there and like holding it, and it was yeah, like that's, I don't know that I had a like welcome to the NHL moment, but that one like really gave me a lot of confidence of like, okay, I like
Hell
those are
yeah,
big
Rick
saves
Nash.
I made
Yeah.
before. Yeah, but like now this is like there's not a league above this that I need to do that in. I can do that in this league. So
Wow. Really cool.
yeah, and yeah, to get first win playing in Toronto was great. And yeah, it was yeah, forever grateful to Ron Wilson.
Yeah.
He used to bug me all the time about going to Cornell because he was a Providence guy. Him and Berkey were
Right.
Providence guys, so that's,
Yeah.
yeah, he was always, I liked him as a guy and liked him as a coach. So certainly grateful to Ronnie for putting my name on the lineup card.
That was a hell of a way to start your career. So you were part of some pretty, you know, I would say you were part of some goalie carousels where, you know, must have been tough
Very,
because
very tactful wording
yeah.
choice.
Yeah. Well, so this was something I always wondered, like in the past, like you had a number one and a backup. And nowadays you're seeing more, like Vegas just won the cup with 3 goalies. Boston's doing it with 2 or 4 goalies. Sorry, you're right.
Yeah.
Boston's doing it with, you know, with 2 guys that are playing regularly. Is there a
Mm.
recipe that you think works better, or it all depends on the situation of the team?
I did an interview with um reporter here in Edmonton who's got a radio show, Kevin Carius, and he asked,
Yeah.
we talked a little bit about Oilers goaltending at the moment. And this
Yeah.
was a couple weeks ago. This was before Campbell was waived and sent down to Bakersfield.
Yeah.
And like feel for him.
Of
Same thing
course.
happened. Same thing happened to me. I was down in Baco, so I've got a lot of empathy for where he's at right now. But like, this is my answer then, and this is my answer now. Like, you don't need amazing goaltending to win a Stanley Cup. Like, it could help, but like, if you're paying, you know, if you're wasting in a salary cap era, if you're wasting cap space on goaltending when you could be fielding a more competitive lineup top to
Wow.
bottom, you're hamstringing yourself, right? Like, I just don't know. Like, Bobrovsky was close. Had Bobrovsky won last year, like he's an anomaly to what I think.
Yeah, well, he went on a hell of a run.
Right. And
Unreal.
he's a $10 million guy. I
Yeah.
also think that they've got a lot of guys on discount. It helps them. I mean, Vegas and Florida, it helps them to be in like income tax free states because they can pitch that as for guys taking like a bit of a haircut.
Yeah.
So they're not losing money, but they're freeing up cap space for the team so that they can have a better chance of winning. Right. It's harder to do that in some of the other markets, but yeah, I think if you have a good team, you got a good team. If you have a good team, you're going to have two goalies put up pretty good numbers.
Yeah.
If you have a so-so team and two goalies that are like different caliber, you're going to see a bit of a difference in, and that tends to be where you have like a true number one and like a supporting guy. You got a bad team, nobody's putting up good numbers. And that is like kind of I think that's kind of where you're at. And like, not horrible. Like there's obviously different levels of quality of goaltending, right? Like I'm not saying I was as good as Lundqvist or Price or like those guys were outclassed me by a margin. But like, I just don't know. If I'm a GM, I'm spending money in a different area than like get some serviceable goalies. Like Ullmark, well deserving of the Vezina last year, but like 2 years before was in Buffalo. And I don't know that I heard anybody being like, this guy is gonna.
It's a great point.
You know what I mean? And it's not a knock on Ullmark. Like you have to make the saves you've got to make in order to give your team a chance. But like if your team's playing like San Jose, like you put anybody in there and you're just like in tough. Like you're stealing. Nobody's gonna steal games night in and night out.
Right.
It's like the league's too good, and it's even better now than when I played.
Yeah, I've completely changed my opinion on this over the last few years. Just seeing like, you can't rely on somebody to bail you out all the time because it just only lasts for so long. And the puck's got to get by five guys before it gets to you. And if you're just, an average NHL goalie, which is perfectly fine, and you're on a better team, then you're not going to be giving up. You're not going to be having 2-on-1s all night. And you're not going to be so yeah, I think you've definitely persuaded me on that one. And I've been thinking about that for a long time, because in the past it was just, if you don't have the best goal, you're not going to win. And it's just, I think the game has changed a lot. And I think, the progression.
Like it's important for your goalie to be consistent.
Yeah.
Like your team's got to know what they're getting. Yeah. And so like wildly, I would rather have a goalie that gives up the same types of goals all the time. So that you just know what you're dealing with versus like one time it's this way, one time it's that way. And now, your team's just like unsure. Consistency is the thing that allows other people to read, your teammates to read and react off of you. It's what I'm maybe pilloried for this, but like playoff hockey is boring hockey because it is generally speaking, or historically has been like mistake-free hockey. The Oilers have put that to the test the last couple of years, like much 6 games, which is like unheard of, and like just scoring across the league is up. So maybe that's starting to shift, but like by and large, it's like a team game where you're not giving up a ton of like unforced errors is going to give you the best chance of winning.
Yeah, there's certainly no space out there in the playoffs. Just the effort level is at max capacity.
Everybody's back checking. Everybody's playing. Right.
Yeah, for sure. You played with some amazing goalies throughout your career, and watching what Jonathan Quick is doing right now, like with the Rangers, did you see that coming? And tell me a little bit about Quickie.
Yeah, I don't know. Did I see it coming? I didn't put a lot of thought into it.
Or could you have predicted that he'd have a resurgence like this at this point? Because it looked like he lost his job, and like things can change quickly.
Yeah, he arguably
no pun intended.
Yeah. Like he did lose his job, but like if my answer to the last question is you don't need the goalie to win, then like when you're not winning, it's also not strictly like on that one position, right? I think what Phoenix Copley did in LA is like there's a couple guys who have had those types of runs. Like I'm thinking of who's the guy in Ottawa? I can think of his Hamburglar, Hammond, Andrew Hammond.
Andrew Hammond, yeah.
Right? Like went on that crazy run. Aiden Hill seems to be bucking that trend, but he kind of went on a crazy run.
Yeah.
Binnington, same thing, kind of goes on a crazy run. Kind of came back to earth a little bit, but I think that he's improved.
He's on a heater right now.
But he's also, I mean, St. Louis was historically like whenever we played St. Louis, it was like they were big, heavy, well coached.
Yeah.
Like it was going to be tough to win. They could have maybe won more, but like whatever is what it is.
Yeah.
So Quickie is, I mean, he is a veteran. He knows how to play and he knows how to perform, and he has maintained his flexibility and his ability to like get around the net. And so like he's the type of guy that when I talked earlier about like when the game starts, that's when things are important. Before that, it doesn't matter. He prepared, like he worked hard in the gym. I've never seen a goalie squat that long before, but also you know, it just has to do with like the way his body is built, right? He's able to, he's a deceptively strong individual.
Okay.
But he like is he the winningest US goalie now?
That's a good question. If he's not, he's in the top
like,
3.
Yeah, is Miller ahead of him?
Ryan Miller might be ahead of him.
Yeah. Regardless, he's like I think he has the most shutouts of any American goalie. So like arguably he's one of the best to ever come out of his country. So am I surprised that he goes to a well-coached, disciplined, you know, solid team in New York and puts up good numbers? Like, no, that's not surprising. It is like on par. Like, and again, Louis Domingue, like very serviceable goalie. He's also got like fantastic numbers in New York in a very small sample size, right? Yeah. So not surprised by what Quick's doing. Like great competitor. Anybody who's played with him talks about his like drive to win. Like he really wants to win more than anybody. Maybe not more than anybody. He really wants to win, and so that drive is evident. And like kudos to him for embracing the roles that he's embraced. Right, like he could be too cocky. Like I'm Jonathan Quick. Why am I backing up in the playoffs for Vegas? Instead, he was from everything I heard was like a fantastic goalie partner. Earned himself another ring in that capacity, going to New York and helping Shesterkin Shesterkin, those Russian guys, helping Shesterkin in like a supporting way and lending his expertise and his past experience. Like he's not like a coach, so to speak, but just having that presence around is got to be helpful for the team.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about, everyone talks about the different pressures around playing in different cities. I think you explained it pretty thoroughly. Like on the ice, it's on the ice, and it kind of maybe doesn't matter once you're playing the game. But the distractions outside the rink, is that where a lot of the pressure that people feel comes from? Like the difference between LA and Toronto, like for example.
Yeah, I think there's two parts to it. Like some guys enjoy being in the center of the spot, right? Some guys prefer to like fly under the radar. I think I would probably lean towards the former. I enjoyed talking with the media. I enjoyed the notoriety that comes with playing certainly in Canadian markets. it can be a lot if you allow it to be a lot. And like, it's, I don't know, I guess it kind of comes down to like boundary setting a little bit
Yeah,
of like,
that's great.
for yourself, right? Like if you want to read everything written about you, you can find it. You can set up a Google alert for yourself and hear it all. My dad was never like a hockey. He didn't know the game in and out. But I remember him telling me kind of fairly early on in my career, whether I don't remember if he started saying it in college or once I was kind of playing pro, but it was like a good adage that helped me at certain points, which is like, you're never and he would say it after good games. So he's like, you're never as good as they say you are, and you're never as bad as they say you are. And so it's, I don't know, cliche, I guess, but like also 100% accurate. Right. And I think that like, as I've transitioned into like an outside role within the NHL world, and like I talk to people around here, and I'm friends with people who are like Oiler crazy.
Yeah,
they acknowledge that they are, right, and it's they know that they're over the top, and it's entertainment, right? Like and if you don't view it as that as a player, it can take on a life of its own, right? Doesn't mean it's easy to do, because your ego can become very tied up in what's being said about you and how you're viewed, especially because you lose control over those narratives, right? I think a lot of guys, it's an interesting thing, but guys who have kids while they're playing, like every single guy that had a kid while they're playing, like, oh, it changed my perspective, like night and day.
100%.
You're sleep deprived a bit, so like guys play can kind of like struggle a little bit. But it's certainly as you get out of that newborn stage and the kids are just like the kids, and especially like toddlers and stuff, it's like come home, like win, lose, they come home, the kids don't give a shit. I'm allowed to swear on this one.
You can just say anything you want.
Like the kids don't care, right? Like even if they care, they forget 5 minutes later. And so guys who really struggled to like keep things at the rink lose a game, and they're pouty and not taking it out on their partners, but like they're not fun to be around. Having kids, like you just don't have that option to be like grumpy after all
how many do you have?
I just have one kid at the moment. And I waited till afterwards. I also, the flip side of that coin is like, I also saw how much time the guys missed with their kids because they're on the road, because you're traveling, because you're doing all this stuff. So I wanted to make sure that I was as present as I could be. Once that was fortunate enough to happen for me. So.
Well, that's really cool. And you obviously you had an awesome professional career. I want to ask you quickly about your decision to go to the KHL. Was that something that you thought like might be a path back to the NHL, or were you just looking for an opportunity to play hockey again?
I think I was frustrated with like my perceived treatment. I thought that I got kind of a raw deal by
a lot of people did.
I'm trying not to air out grievances.
It's okay.
But like, I don't know. Like, sucks to have like your first year as a starter on a team that like weren't that good of a team. Straight up. And like I'm part of it not being that good of a team. I probably tried to do too much. But there's just like stuff around it. And then to kind of have, the axe sort of fall maybe not squarely on me. Other guys, moved on as well. But to have to be like waived and sent down to Bakersfield with like there's some like questionable stuff in my mind about how all of that was executed. that like, yeah, I don't know, kind of rubbed me the wrong way, left me in a spot that I like wasn't loving hockey, wasn't loving being down there. Was fortunate that ended up getting traded to Montreal, and that like kind of reinvigorate, like
Yeah.
reaffirmed, I want to say my first game with Montreal. I like, we played in Florida. I made a save off my elbow. Puck went to the weak side, like as close as I could ever get to the full splits, and like robbed Yager on the back door.
Yeah.
And it's like, it was like, okay, yeah, I can still play. Like I reaffirmed that like innate knowledge I had in myself. Like I can still play.
Yeah.
And so, but like then, yeah, contract talks the next year where didn't go how I thought they were going to go. I thought I was going to get an opportunity to be a backup somewhere again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just didn't happen. I was presented with like a couple options to go be a number 3 somewhere and work my way back up.
Yeah.
And I was like, just like,
Been there, done that.
I was kind of frustrated with the politics from the past year.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, like I'm just gonna go play. It's gonna be an opportunity to be like kind of the undisputed starter, play meaningful hockey. The money was good. Like the money was good.
Did you have fun playing in Russia? Because like everyone that I've talked to that's been there, it's been like some people absolutely loved it, and other people are like, this is not where I should be.
Yeah, so I enjoyed my time. I played in Minsk in Belarus for a year, and it really helped to have. There was quite a few North American and European guys, and guys that I had played in the NHL with on that team. Guys I still talk to and got along with quite well. So yeah, we like really enjoyed that season, and especially being able to play and having an opportunity to play hockey on like my terms was like important and felt good. And then I like, truthfully, I was planning on going to Minsk and like calling it a career. And then got another offer in Russia again for a different team. And it was the allure of the possibility of the Olympics that like had me sign and go play another year. And then but yeah, the guys that, and this is a generalized statement, so like obviously not applicable to everybody, but the guys who don't enjoy their time in Russia, I think tended to lean towards the guys who like hadn't traveled, hadn't been pushed out, hadn't had their horizons broadened that much, just in like a life experience state sense. Like I was really fortunate to travel with my family when I was growing up. So I knew that things were going to be different, and like people were,
your expectations were in the right spot.
Yeah, like you go to a country like Russia or Belarus, and you expect all the things that you have in North America and the same lifestyle. It's like, it's just not going to happen, right? The rink are different. There's like a whole bunch of cultural stuff that has been like well documented, but if you're not able to roll with those punches, then you're going to struggle a little bit. And it was an interesting experience for me. There's a lot that I learned about Russians and the Russian culture. Some things like I have more respect for in terms of how they operate. Some things remain questionable in my mind, but like it's not my culture. So I was just able to see it and interpret it in a way that was filtered through the lenses that I had. So I enjoyed my time there, met some great people, and I still keep in touch with some of my friends from over there in the retirement. It was an interesting 2 years, that's for sure.
I can imagine, but it sounds like you made the best of it. And when the decision finally came, was it tough for you to hang them up?
No. Sorry, I answered too quickly there.
That's all right.
No, it wasn't that hard.
It was really hard.
No, I was ready to retire the year before that.
Okay.
and I got a chance to play at the Olympics, and I, played one more year pro. I had a contract in Switzerland if I wanted it, and I was ready for my next steps. Yeah, like my team in Russia, good guys on the team. Like, part of what made Minsk so good is, like, I thought we had a really good coach. Like, I really liked him. I respected him a lot, liked playing for him. That was, like, less so the case in Ufa. And, like, just a little bit of clash of personalities. So ended up being what it was. But, like, second half of the year, there was just some, like, weird stuff going on. And that happens in Russia, right? You don't have, it's not your home turf. So, like, weird things happen, and you gotta kind of roll with it. And I think I certainly didn't help my own cause that much. I wasn't prepared to play the game, so to speak. I wasn't prepared to, like, engage in, like, the politics of what would have taken. And that's my decision to make, and nobody else owns that but me. And it made some of my life harder, but it also was, like, where I was at that moment.
Interesting. You seem like such a well-balanced guy, man. It's awesome. And I would just want to finally tell me a little bit about, like, what you're doing now, how you're staying in the game, and how life has been post retirement.
Yeah, I mean, like, ups and downs. I think that's one of the challenges that a lot of guys face is you kind of come from a world where the world's your oyster, and your identity it's really easy to have your identity be wrapped up in your job. I was really fortunate to have, like, good people around me, and spend time during my off seasons taking classes and doing stuff. Like, I mentioned my friends from high school, and, like, to have friends who are plumbers and HVAC and ticketed tradesmen who, like, treat you the way they've always treated you, and those are the types of relationships that help keep you balanced and help keep you grounded. I mean, certainly I've had some challenges in the transition, but I feel like I'm in a good spot presently, and doing some work with the NHL Alumni Association feels really meaningful, and I'm happy with that role, doing a little bit of coaching. It's nice to kind of give back to kids, and there's a camp of, like, young kids, like U11, U9, U7, and, like, when your only goal as the coach is to make sure the kids have fun, it's like, it's the easiest job, and it's
better
so
than
fun.
that?
Yeah, the kids are great. It's an amazing way to spend Saturday morning. So yeah, like, I'm like, just plodding along, so to speak. I'm happy to kind of stay involved with the game, kind of from an arm's length. But when I look back 5 years ago to where I am now, like, never would have guessed any of that. And if I go back 10 years, like, I wouldn't have guessed 5 years before. So if I sit here and try and guess at what I'm going to be doing 5 years from now, like,
who knows?
Almost a fool's errand. Not dissimilar from, I guess, how I approached my minor hockey. Just figure out a little bit.
Yeah, I guess just being able to wake up with a purpose every day is what makes life, right?
Yeah, a reason to get up, good people around you, and you're in the Maslow's hierarchy sense, all of your immediate needs taken care of.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. I've really enjoyed talking to you. And before I get to our overtime questions, who's the best defenseman you've ever played behind, and why?
I mean, I think Drew Doughty probably has to be the top guy. I mean, obviously, Norris Trophy winner. He's just fun, affable, a skill set that is it doesn't look like he's working hard. He is just so good at what he does. And he was younger when I played with him, and so he was like good enough to be in the leadership group and was like part of those conversations. But like they had the Robin Regeers, the Willie Mitchells, Dustin Browns, Kopitars, even Johnny Quick. Like they kind of had their Justin Williams, Jarrett Stoll. They had the like leadership group, and so he got to just play and be fun, comfortable, and it was made my job and every other goalie's in LA's job a lot easier.
That's awesome. And yeah, you could certainly see that progression for Doughty. That's interesting. I didn't see that coming, to be honest. I didn't think you were going to say Drew Doughty, but I guess it makes a lot of sense. Before we get to the overtime questions, I have to thank my new podcast agent, Robbie Schrem, for setting this up.
Great guy.
Yeah, great guy, doing great things over here, and I appreciate what he's doing and making this connection with you. So I got a segment of the show, Ben, where I just ask the same 10 generic questions, rapid fire questions to you, and then one special one at the end, just for you. All right, so here we go. Habs or Leafs?
Oh, can I pass? I played for both of them.
Can't pass.
Oh. I can't give you an answer.
All right.
Who's your favorite kid? I don't know. I love my time in both cities. I don't watch hockey and this is the team that I want to win. I played in the minors against Brendan Gallagher, and played with him. Like, great guy.
No, I think you're uniquely qualified to not answer that question, since you did play for both teams. Number two is
part of both alumni groups.
Yeah, that's a tough one for you. I get
don't
it.
bite them in the feeds.
All right, Lemieux or Gretzky?
You know what I am the problem in this. I don't do rapid fire questions very easily because
That's fine.
I always ask for context. Like, who would I want to be? Who do I want to face? Who would I want on my team?
There's really no context. It's kind of like the first, like, overall.
I think it's
better at their craft.
I mean, I think you have to go Gretzky. But like Lemieux probably did it with a smaller supporting cast. So and had a shorter career too, right?
Very true. Probert or Domi?
Probert.
Okay.
I would say
Probert. Waugh or Brodeur?
Probably Patrick, but like Hasek's the best goalie to ever play. So.
Oh, good answer. Good answer. Or Lidstrom?
I think Lidstrom.
Claude Lemieux or Brad Marchand?
I mean, I've skated with Brad. Good guy. He's annoying to play against.
I'm sure.
But like, he's I take Marchand because he is a better hockey player. He's like more. He brings more to a team, I think.
Yzerman or Messier?
Yzerman, I think.
Okay. Bowman or Burns?
Do I have to just keep answering all the Detroit? We'll go Bowman just for continuity.
Okay. Ron or Don?
Well, Ron's from Alberta, and he's a referee.
He is.
I chatted with him. He used to broadcast the Calgary Stampede on CBC all the time. So I went down with the family and was at the Stampede parade and chatted with him for a little bit. I loved Rock'em Sock'em Hockey. It's hard to say.
Too.
It's hard to go against Don, but Don and I see the world differently, so I'm going to go Ron.
Okay, last one. Shootout or no shootout?
If it's no shootout, does it go to a tie?
No. Play till the end.
It just goes continuous OT.
Yeah.
Yeah, continuous OT, 100%.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, one final one for you. Was there ever a rink that you played in that was hardest, like with bad sight lines, like funky bounces? Hardest rink to play in?
I wish I could burn Appleton Arena to the ground. It is St. Lawrence University's rink, and it's like all like lacquered wood stands, like bleachers. Very flammable, I would hope. I got pulled my freshman year, my sophomore year, my junior year in that rink. Like it was my name. I got pulled every single game.
Later up.
And not even like the first probably game I didn't play great. Second game, give and take. Third game, like 3 off of just like defenseman's shin pads. Like, oh my God. And then it felt like a curse. And so it was my senior year. I exercised the demons and came out with a 1-1 tie. And I was like, that's as good of
that's awesome. That's Appleton. Really cool. Appleton. All right. Burn it down. Burn it down. Ben, thank you so much. Been really an interesting conversation. I hope everyone enjoys your outlook on the game. I certainly think it's something worth sharing. So thank you so much for giving me so much of your time on a Friday night back home. I wish you nothing but the best, bud, in your post-life or post-career life.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. Keep fighting the good fight overseas, man.
We will, buddy. Thanks. That was Across the Pond, and that's a wrap.
Thank you to our amazing sponsors, the China Hockey Group, Wheel Hub Asia, AccessoryHouseGlobal.com, Yardley Brothers Beer, and of course, Sunset Studio. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Across the Pond HK. Email us, send in your comments and questions to the show at any time at acrossthepondhk@gmail.com.